Thank you very much for that. Welcome. The green button is to put the next one here, the next picture. Or? Okay. SaltX technology. I just checked before I went away from the office this morning here that it's almost precisely in a few weeks, it's exactly 5 years ago since we went into the stock market in April. And we are a company that is working with energy storages. We have focused very much on the energy storage application. We had in the past a number of other applications and the business areas, but those have been closed down now, and we are only focusing on the energy storage. I shouldn't say only, because the market is actually huge. It's extremely big, and we can see that the prediction and the forecast of the demand is really, really going up in the future. There are people talking about that it's going to be 10 doubles in the 4 or 5 years' time, and we know for sure that we are in the beginning of this journey of energy storages because of the fossil-free installations are increasing rapidly and all those things. And that's why we have a big need to supply the energy storages. We have also seen that because of the new renewable installations in wind and sun mainly, there is a lot of ups and downs, peaks and volatilities in the energy prices. And last month, in February, it was the first time whatsoever we had negative prices in Sweden and in Finland also, as a matter of fact. And that would have been the ideal situation to have an energy storage to load the batteries, so to say, load the salt in this case, when we have negative prices, to get money when you are charging the batteries. That's very good. But that's only one little occasion, but I think this will happen more and more in the future, because the changes are really going on out there. We can see that very, very clearly. I was in Helsinki, Fors last week, and Fortum have made up their mind that within 5 years, the coal production will be stopped totally. They actually have a countdown system within 4 years and 12 months, and we will stop producing coal. And they are in desperate need of some other solutions. They are okay when it comes to 7, 8 months of the year, but when the cold week, when the cold month comes, then they need something to inject to support that the people get electricity and heat. We are 15 people at the moment now, pretty small company, but we feel that we are very committed to the energy storage application. And we made a right issue before Christmas last year, and after that we actually became more than 18,000 shareholders. That's quite a lot. We are listed on the Nasdaq First North Premium Market, and I think the only company that has more shareholders is Alkenius company. So it's a little bit of a people action. People share. What are we then doing? Well, this is a thermochemical storage application. It's not a lithium-ion battery. This is a completely other application. So there is no competition between a lithium-ion battery and our application. It's more like a complement to each other. We are dealing with a calcium oxide and H2O, water. And by different processes in different temperatures, we create energy, calcium hydroxide. And I will show you a little bit how it works very shortly. What we have here is that we have the electricity, the energy in. We are loading the calcium hydroxide up to 550 degrees Celsius. And then when we have reached that temperature, we are for sure, we know that the salt is loaded. We have a dehydration, we call it. And that means that the H2O, the water, disappears in heat. And then we have charged salt, calcium oxide. And the calcium oxide could be stored for number of hours, number of days, number of weeks, number of months without losing any energy. And that's the key point, really. It's not sensible, we call it. All other batteries, almost, there are a few not sensible applications also, but most of the other applications, they are sensible in one way or another. It means that they are losing energy over time. So once you have the calcium oxide here, you want to hydrate, you want to unload the energy, then you start the chemical process by submitting minimum 110 degrees Celsius steam, 110, 120 degrees. And then you will get all the energy back in heat. So 550 degrees steam will come out. That steam could be used into district heating, but it could also be used for a turbine to create some electricity. So it's actually a combination, and the battery is seen as a small system, and it needs to be adapted to each application, really. In some cases, the customer already have a turbine that could be used, but in most of the cases it's only used as an district heating supplier. So the installation we have in Berlin at Vattenfall, for instance, we are then taking out the 550 degrees Celsius steam, but we take it down because of the district heating system cannot handle more than 120 degrees Celsius. And once we have done that hydration, unloading, it comes back to calcium hydroxide again. So it's a circular thing here. It goes around as often as you want. And again, it depends on the application. The extreme is the seasonal storages. The other one is maybe that you charge and uncharge on a weekly basis, something like that. If you go down into more frequent cycles, loading, unloading, you can do that, but you should preferably use lithium-ion battery in that cases. So it's a complement to each other. This picture actually describes the whole company with a number of very, very important issues here. First of all, as I already said, I think 550 to 800 degrees Celsius. We need that temperature to get the chemical process going. That's very important. We also know that there are a lot of waste heat in the industry today that have this temperature that could also be used as to charge the salt. We have a pretty high energy density in between 500 and 600 kilowatt hours per ton. And it's actually 4 times, almost 5 times better than if you compare it with the concrete storages, for instance. There is a company in Germany that have built a very big Vulcan stone storages, 1,000 ton Vulcan stones, and they have drilled channels into this and trying to store. They're actually doing it, but it's so big. It's extremely big, and since we have 5 times better density here, we could only use, in this case, 240 tons of salt. This one is much, much bigger. It's scalable. It's independently scalable. It could go up from 1 megawatt up to 100 megawatts. pretty easily. And the new thing, for those of you who have heard me before, and I heard SaltX before, the new thing is really that we have now gone into the transportation business also, you can say. It's transportable. And what I mean by that is actually that it is the battery, the salt could be charged if you have a lot of waste heat in a heavy industry, metal industry, pulp and paper industry, could be charged into calcium oxide. And after that, it could be transported to a place that are maybe using oil or something else, peat, to charge a temperature in a district heating. And then once, we call it POC and POD, point of charge, point of discharge. And once you have used the pod, the energy, you can actually take it back again to charge it again. There's a transport issue here, but there are plenty of ships and boats that are doing this already today in the concrete business. Concrete is actually calcium oxide, same thing. The storages, I said 1 hour to 6 months here, it could be longer also. And that's the beauty with this whole application. We are very much unique here in this situation. It's all natural. There are plenty of salt out there in the nature that could be used in this case, especially when the trends are going into biofuel, to cars and to airplanes and all those things. There are people working with this. They need the forest sources, so to say, and we could then take away the pellets and all those other things and deliver salt instead. It's robust, and there is no risk for corrosive things that should happen. And what we think is economical, but it needs to put into the system. It needs to take care about the heat and all those things that we're doing in the batteries. This is actually the pilot plant in Berlin, as we have done it almost 1 year ago now, in April 2019. Harald Bauer could be seen here as the CFO. He's sitting in the front row here also, together with Markus Witt, who is the heat manager in Vattenfall. And this was the first pilot installation that we have done in full scale. And the reason we did this was actually to prove the concept that the salt is actually doing the right thing for us. What we were afraid of is that it could have agglomerate, been clumping together, but it didn't. So it worked out very well. So we get what we call a system efficiency, round-trip efficiency in this process, as I showed you earlier, of 85%. And that's something we are very proud of also that we will reach. We are on a technical readiness level at 6, which means that we are not ready yet. We need to optimize this installation, which means we need from a technical performance, but also from a cost point of view, we need to find more efficient way of charging the salt. We are getting into more and more into what we call the fluid as bed application. In Berlin, we have a heating screw that actually are heating up the salt. The ecosystem is running like this, that we have salt producers. We are talking to Nordkalk and to Wacker. That is actually doing the nano coating for us. This is the unique part, the nano coated salt. And it's a top secret recipe here. And they are doing that. And we have to the top here, we have the OEMs, what we call the OEMs. They are the people that actually produce the reactors, the charger and the uncharger. Very important. That's a noble part of the whole installation. And then we have the equipment, procurement, construction, EPCs that are actually building the installation. And we have the off-takers. Sometimes the EPC could be the same as the off-takers. And that's, today we have 3 actually agreements with EPCs. That's Inarco in Spain and the southern part of Europe. Steinmüller in Germany and Shanglian in China. They are working to design their energy storage. I don't know how I made it in time, but that's, I think, it.
Thank you very much. Please enter the stage, center stage with me. We have some questions here from the app. One is posed like this. You said that the whole energy comes out as 550 degrees steam. Really? 100% efficiency. The Berlin plant was 85 so far.
That depends. When we charge the salt, it disappears a number of power, yes, but that steam could be used when we are uncharging the batteries later on. So it's not 100%. That was a misunderstanding then, or unclear described from my side. We have a round-trip efficiency of 85%. That's the figure.
That's the one you stated in the Berlin plant too.
Yeah, yeah.
Which are your most viable applications? Another question.
The most
viable applications.
I wouldn't know really. I mean, we are creating a market here. We are looking into various applications, and we know that there are a number of challenges wherever we go. But the main thing is that we actually have to do the full-scale installations in reality and take the lessons learned from that. I can't really give any points in a scale that who is more violent than the other one.
You were looking at, there was a plant being built in China, you said, and one was in Germany?
Those plants have not been built yet.
They're in the process.
They're in the process. We released a press release yesterday that we have delivered the salt to Shanglian in China. They are building a pretty small installation of 50 kilowatt, and they are building it as to test the technology, to test salt in real case. In Arco, they are not there yet. It takes a lot of time. I mean, this is not an iPhone battery that you just plug in and you do it. You have to make a lot of engineering, and you have to a lot of testing and calculations and all those things before you can actually use this
Speaking
battery.
of time, when was this innovation, when did it come to life the first time? How was it? How was the process?
It's more than 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, more than 5 years ago. And we have used the technology in various other applications, in sun cooling industry. We have used it in other heat boosters application, all those things. But we have decided now that this is the way we should focus on, and this is because of the huge demand, and really that we are helping the fossil-free installations to be a reality. 100%.
And the storage, the storage of the salt, what kind of container, or how does it look like?
It's like a silo. It's like a silo where you have it. It's going up like this, and it's a transportable band that you come into the reactor and it's charging it. So it's
and it's stainless steel.
No stainless steel.
No?
You don't need that because of the salt is so corrosive friendly. It doesn't corrode at all.
All right. Let's see if I have any questions from the audience in the room. Let's see. Any hands up? Then I have one more question. Competition. Are you the only one doing this?
There are a number of technologies, for sure, and I think that the demand is so huge, so it will not be only one application.
Maybe that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Absolutely, that's a good thing. We have concrete. We have malted salt. Some of you have heard about that, maybe. That it needs to be above 250 degrees all the time in that application. You have water, of course, which is you have water. We have the big pumped hydro, the water reservoirs also. That's
a storage we've had for many years.
Many years, yes, absolutely. But it's not that easy to charge and uncharge that often. You do it only when you really need it. So,
and in the future, how could you see your applications in the vicinities of cities or would it be more in conjunction with larger industries? So how do you foresee the application?
It's a big scale of various applications. As I said, Fortum in Finland, they have to stop use the coal 2025, and this is now. This is reality now.
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, and they have a lot of renewable. They have wind, they have sun, and they have the nuclear also in Finland that they are making installation. But still, they need something else. So what they are looking into is to have a massive storages with gigawatt hours.
In terms of square meters, give us an idea of how big is it?
It's probably a silo with 5-6 meters in diameter and 30-40 meter high, around that.
Okay, then we got
so
a
they need
pretty good picture.
to use that, and they charge it, and that's going to be pretty central in Espoo in Finland to be based there. And they're going to charge it once the winter months come.
Fascinating. Will be very interesting to follow your work.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.